Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to review The Treasure of Sierra Madre from 1948, directed by John Huston. And in this film you are following Humphrey Bogart, Tim Holt and Walter Huston searching in the mountains after gold. And it's really this kind of western adventure story, but there is an element of darkness to it. And I'm going to spoil some parts of this movie, so if you haven't watched it, please watch it first and come back later. What I really admire about this film is, it's a western adventure story, but there's development in the characters. You don't really know in the beginning where it will go in terms of who is the good guys and who is the bad guys. Because you are primarily following Humphrey Bogart's point of view and a bit Tim Holt in the beginning, and then they start meeting Walter Huston's character who knows something about gold, Walter Huston kind of seems a bit like a villainous type in the beginning, but through this film you start discovering that Bogart's character is kind of a bit a paranoia person, in that sense that he doesn't trust the other guys, and he actually wants the money for himself when they start finding gold. They know that they will get money out of it. And I really find it to be an interesting film for actors, and all of the actors does a very good performance. But I really admire Bogart for trying to do something a bit different. Normally you would think of Bogart as the hero type, but here he becomes the villain essentially in the end. There's also something I kind of like, is that there's some questionings about the difficulties of shooting another person. For example, another person comes into the group because he has discovered they are in the mountain. And then Walter Huston, Tim Holt and Bogart has to decide whether they have to take him into the group or if they have to kill him or just leave him. And I just like these scenes where they just talk about whether or not they have to kill him, because normally in sort of western films they will just shoot each other, but here it takes time to really think about what they are going to do. And there's also another scene where Walter Huston has to save a boy who has been injured in a water accident, I think. And that scene where he has to save that boy, I found it quite moving. You see all the people surrounding him, looking at him, and you see the close-up of the faces, and he's just trying to get him to breathe again, the boy. And it's really a beautiful scene. I kind of like how it's made. And Walter Huston also delivers a truly brilliant performance. He's a bit over the top, but he really does it in a convincing way. And again, what I admire about Bogart's transformation, I also really like Huston's transformation, because you feel that he is the scoundrel in the beginning, but in the end he's the most wise of all the people there, and the one who has the best knowledge, and he kind of becomes a bit like the hero in the end. So I think this is an unusual Western film in that sense. I feel it's a bit unconventional. I think there's layers to the characters, the conflict they're going through. Tim Holt's point of view to all this is like he wants to make sure that all the three people can get the money that is deserved. So he doesn't even want to shoot Bogart when he had the chance, because Bogart becomes very dangerous. But Tim Holt doesn't want to do him any harm, but eventually it makes it more difficult for him, because Bogart really wants to kill him in the end, even though they come from the same background and they were they were kind of mates in the beginning, but in the end, no. He's a bit like perhaps the most ordinary person in this film in that sense. He's a good actor, but he's a bit more, there's not so much development to him. But I kind of like his character to be that, where Walter Huston and Bogart is the more crazy characters. If I have some few issues, is like perhaps it has to find momentum in the beginning, but I really first think it becomes interesting when they are in the mountains, you know. Another thing is minor issue is like the ending. I really like the ending where they don't really get their gold. Bogart's character dies, and the other one doesn't. You know, the gold vanished in the out to the mountain again, and there's an ironic sense, and that I really like. But suddenly Walter Huston and Tim Holt, they just burst out in laughter, and I understand the ironic sense of it, but it's a bit perhaps too over the top. It's not the most convincing thing. I can forgive it because it is. It has to wrap everything up, you know. That is my opinion of The Treasure of Sierra Madre. Thank you so much for watching this video, and let me know in the comments what you think of this movie, and I hope you will all have a very nice day. Bye!